YouTube? It's crime time with your boy Turtle, man. Got this crazy lady, bro, threw her daughter off a balcony, man, in Galveston, Texas. Some sad people in this world, man. Let's jump right in.
A mother is accused of killing her 17-month-old daughter by throwing her off a hotel balcony. It is truly a sickening crime as we dive into the details of this event, her mental health, and some backstory. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Really sad story out of Galveston, Texas we got to talk about. We have a woman who is accused of throwing her 17-month-old daughter off a hotel balcony, killing her. This is just
sad. It's just pathetic, man. If you don't want the kid, man, at least go bring him, to a shelter somewhere, man.
To a probable cause affidavit that was authored by Detective Matthew Larson.
It's a beautiful little kid, man.
So I want to start when Larson describes arriving on the scene after receiving a call about this unresponsive child bleeding on the road. Quote, the affiant observed a white blanket half on a sidewalk and half on the street. The affiant observed a small pool of blood on the street. The affiant observed the scene to be located on the east side of Beachfront Palms Hotel.
Heartbreaking, man.
The affiant observed the child was already in an ambulance and left for the hospital shortly after. The affiant was notified at 10:34 a.m. that the child's death was pronounced by hospital personnel. Detective Rogers was at the hospital and advised to the affiant at 10:44 a.m.
She was in Galveston trying to have fun. The baby must have been getting in her way.
Potential stabbing injuries as well. And by the way, a man named Brandon
stabbed the baby too.
Apparently saw or was the one who actually found Hannah's body on the street. Told ABC 13 it was heartbreaking to see that, to see a little precious, beautiful, perfect little girl laying there lifeless.
Nah, man.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the defendant, the affidavit continues. Officer
hey, these stories be so sad, bro.
Description of a female who left from the location of where the baby was found, who possibly was a witness. Officer Reyes advised that a short time later, he observed a female matching the description that Officer Wilkie had put out in the 6700 block of Seawall Boulevard. The affiant learned from Officer Reyes that the female was crying and asking Officer Reyes for help. The affiant learned from Officer Reyes that the female then began to be making comments about her daughter and that she might have...
If every time you see an ad, you just want to... You need to download Pi. It's a free Chrome extension that blocks ads on...
...been sick. Learned from Officer Reyes that the female was crying and asking Officer Reyes for help. The affiant learned from Officer Reyes that the female then began to be making comments about her daughter and that she might have been sick.
Yeah,
and then the affidavit explains that Yonko was taken to the police department, advised that she
lock her up, throw away the key, put her under the jail. Don't even let her out.
But here's what's interesting. Larson apparently ended up interviewing Yonko's sister, Mercedes, who was at the police station. Okay, now before I go any further, because I will tell you there was an officer who spoke to the sister here when we got more details, I want to bring on Dr. Apryl Alexander, forensic psychologist, to talk more about this. Doctor, thanks so much for taking the time. There's a lot that I want to get to about this. First of all, generally speaking, why do parents kill their children? And my gosh,
just because they crazy.
An allegation like this,
it's sad.
Throwing a child off of a hotel balcony. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so this is an example of filicide, which is one of the if your child is having a terminal illness, might do it to relieve their pain or suffering. But in many cases, we see, in filicide cases, we see a psychotic parent. So somebody who has severe and persistent mental illness, such as schizophrenia, who is
somebody that just don't got it all.
Mental state of mind.
Sharing a room at the Beachfront Palms Hotel with her sister, Chanel Yonko, and Chanel's daughter. Mercedes,
we don't need to know all of that because we know why they fucking crazy.
Days to see Mercedes. Mercedes stated that on the morning of the 23rd, she gathered with Chanel, and then the name of the daughter is redacted, to begin checking out the hotel. Mercedes stated that she got a ride to the Victorian, which appears to be this condominium, this hotel, to try to talk to her fiancé, Charles. However, it continues, and this is a really strange part. Mercedes stated that after a while, Chanel showed up to the Victorian, pushing her stroller. Mercedes originally stated that Chanel showed up with her daughter. Upon further questioning, Mercedes stated that she didn't actually see the baby, but had no reason to believe she wasn't in the stroller. Mercedes stated that she told Chanel that she couldn't find Charles and was going to go back to the beachfront Palms to gather their luggage. Mercedes stated that Chanel then told her not to go back to the hotel.
It's heavy. It's heavy. She knew. She didn't want you to go back to the hotel because she knew if you did, you was gonna see the baby blow a hole in the plan. So she came back to the hotel, to the other place, pushing the stroller, no baby. So she was in her right state of mind for sure. If she could think all of that through, she was in her right state of mind.
Mercedes found it odd that Chanel would say that and stated that Chanel said, "Don't go back to the hotel," several more times.
Now I'm going back.
David goes on to state that
Just because you said don't, I'm going back.
A trash bag in a trash bin in the parking garage under that hotel, and in that bag was a key card to Chanel's room, a quote skinning knife with a black handle, plastics and toys, unused diapers, and unopened kid snacks. And that's not even all. The affidavit also indicated that a detective apparently found footage of Chanel in the lobby of the hotel pushing Hannah in a stroller. And you know how we can tell it was Hannah in the stroller? Because apparently you can see a foot moving in the stroller. And then there is apparently video, quote, from the second story of the baby falling from what appears to be the third floor and landing on the grass and rolling onto the concrete sidewalk where the baby was found. The disappearance of baby Lisa.
Whoa. That's heavy, chat. That's heavy. So somebody got a video. I wonder how they got a video. Was it like the security camera from across the street or something?
Lisa Irwin has been a mystery for more than a decade. Who took her from her crib in the middle of the night? And could she possibly still be alive? Megyn Kelly is taking you back inside the case in a special new 5-part series, Megyn Kelly Investigates. She interviews baby Lisa's parents, other key players in the case, and through hidden cameras brings the first ever comments from one of the men at the center of the story, inflicted before the fall. And then this is interesting. They say how an investigator at the Lisa. All 5 episodes are available now on the Megyn Kelly Show's YouTube channel and podcast feed, and you can also find out more at megynkelly.com. Officer Wilkie advised that Chanel's empty stroller was found at the Victorian, and then this is interesting. They say how an investigator at the hospital advised that the clothes that this baby was wearing, the blankets that she was wrapped up in, didn't have the puncture marks. So it seems to suggest that those injuries were inflicted before the fall. The affiant believes that Chanel Yonko to have intentionally and knowingly caused the death of Hannah by intentionally dropping her off the hotel balcony. And she was arrested. She was charged with capital murder, appeared in court on Monday. Dr. Alexander, I want to go back to you on this. What do you make of that timeline?
Man.
What stands out to you about that?
I think the final lines of that report and timeline are important. They talk about that she knowingly and willingly engaged in this act.
They got some bad people in this world,
is
man.
what we're going to be picking up on. So why was the knife present? Why did she say do not return to the room? All of those kind of points to some signs of possible premeditation, and I think that's what they're looking for in this affidavit.
If we're talking about stab wounds before throwing the baby off the balcony, do you have a theory about this? Because that is just an extra layer of sadistic.
That's crazy. Why would you stab the baby in general?
That's why
like you got so mad that you stabbed a baby, man?
Talking about competency, just none of it makes sense. She had other means of possibly concealing, so why did she throw the child over the balcony? Not quite sure what that
She must have stabbed the baby.
And we're still in the early process.
And then it got.
I was going to ask you that manner.
It got a little crucial.
That manner of
You know what I'm
killing your
saying?
child. We've covered cases before of drownings, shootings, but allegedly stabbing and throwing off a balcony. Is that manner of killing tell you something?
It's pretty violent, so that's what I'm curious. Was this like a violent act where she was retaliating in some way, or was this again issue related to psychosis, because it does seem so unusual and so unbelievable. So I think that's what we're going to be toying with as this case proceeds to trial.
What would you like to know from the sister?
I wish there were more information, and the sister provided an articulate
Give her more
description of
information
that
about what you
timeline.
asked
But I
her.
wish
How
there was
does
more
it,
information about how she
like,
was
what happened that
viewing her
day?
sister at that time.
What kind of
Was she
person is
engaging in
she?
any other types of unusual behavior,
Is
speaking
she drug
oddly,
user?
in order to have a rule in or rule out of possible psychosis?
There was a statement by Jack Rohde, the Galveston County Criminal District Attorney, on this case. It was on March 12, 2025, and it reads, Chanel Yonko has been found competent. Trial by jury is set for December 1st.
Yeah.
And it's been reported that trial, by the way, could last 2 weeks. But the statement continued, the taking of a human life by government in the name of justice is the most serious decision anyone in the criminal justice system can make. The District Attorney's Office is considering this question with the greatest possible deliberation. The District Attorney's Office is considering this question with the greatest possible deliberation. The District Attorney's Office must also consider the additional legal requirements in death penalty cases of mitigating circumstances and future dangerousness, as well as the ability to prove all necessary legal elements beyond a reasonable doubt. We will announce our decision on the penalty, meaning the death penalty, we will seek in this case when we are satisfied that we have thoroughly considered all relevant information. Now, in terms of the competency,
Definitely
let me
needed.
tell you how that all
Definitely
played out.
needed.
So
Under the
apparently,
jail,
according to
take out,
Houston Public
take our
Media,
back.
a psychiatric
Throw her ass off a
evaluation was
balcony. How about
ordered for
that?
Yonko after she was indicted in January, and a psychiatrist specialist named Edward Grippon concluded that Yonko was competent in that she understood certain aspects of the legal process.
For sure. For her to be
of
taking
her
the baby
time
out of there
leading
and throwing the
up to
baby
her
away, I
daughter's
mean,
death.
that says
She
that
also
she do.
reportedly denied using drugs or alcohol, but did indicate that she had suffered head trauma in the past, that she had bouts of forgetfulness. So a lot of things here, doctor. Going back to you.
Chad.
How do psych evaluations
How y'all feeling
and
today,
competency
Chad?
evaluations work exactly?
How y'all feeling
Absolutely.
today,
So we
Chad?
have to go step by step. Competency is usually raised when there was some indication of mental illness. And when that issue is raised, we have to stop court proceedings right away. This is something that has been in statute for decades now, that if anybody believes that the defendants might be experiencing some mental illness to where they don't understand the courtroom proceedings, that they can't represent themselves adequately in their defense, we have to stop the process. From there, they do get sent to an evaluator, a psychiatrist or psychologist, who then examines whether or not they do understand their rights, are able to consult with their attorney in a rational manner, and just have factual knowledge of the legal system. If they're found competent, we go back to trial. If not, that's where defendants get referred to what's called competency restoration. Getting education on the system, getting mental health treatments, and possibly psychiatric medication in order to be restored to competency.
That's the problem
Once
with the
individuals are
system, man.
successfully
There's
restored
always
to
a damn
competency,
loophole you
when
can
that's
get out
done,
of,
they
bro.
return to trial. So I think sometimes the public gets this confused that they think competency is the same as a mental health defense, and it's not. It's a process to make
For
sure
real,
that we're
Chad.
protecting anyone's civil rights as they go to trial.
And by the way, I just want to let everybody know, ironically, you are at a conference right now. That's why you might hear some of the noise in the background. But
I was
they're about
wondering.
to actually talk about competency. We didn't even know that. It just happened to be one of the things that coincidence about where you're at. By the way, the idea of forgetfulness, I thought that was very key. Forgetfulness, is that a real thing?
Again, all of us have some degree of forgetfulness, right?
Right.
What we need to examine is whether or not it is something that it causes significant distress or impairment.
Severe mental disease or defect, things out in the trash bin. I mean, those of the child. And Yonko also
Those are mitigating factors to decrease death penalty to life in prison, for instance.
By the way, you talked about history. There's a little more reported history about Yonko that I wanted to discuss. So according to ABC 13, this marriage certificate revealed that Yonko was married to an 80-year-old man back in 2017 when she was just 23, but apparently he moved to have
So
that
she
marriage
been finessing.
annulled 2 years later, arguing he was
Baby
tricking
came
that
and
marriage,
messed
that
her
the
up.
marriage was never consummated, and that she ended up having a child with another man while they were married. That's what he alleged. And then ABC 13 also confirmed that she has a criminal record, apparently in multiple states. Also, according to Houston Public Media, Yonko had a prior history with Child Protective Services. In 2019, apparently her other child had to be taken to the ER, and that this child was 5 months old and was found by Yonko and the child's father in the crib with, quote, blue lips and a red body. And the father of the child, Yonko, also allegedly showed up to the hospital, quote, in an altered state, which begs the question earlier if she was being honest about a history of drug or alcohol use.
Dang,
They
man.
had
That's
apparently,
sad.
quote, suctioned her mouth and nose before transporting her to the hospital. This is according to department documents. The medical staff recommended for the child to be admitted for further testing and overnight observation. However, the mother and paramour left with the child against medical advice. Now, it doesn't appear that anything really moved forward with neglect charges, but doctor, or at least
Yeah,
it's
the
not evidence from
system,
our
the
analysis or
system,
research.
man.
But doctor, how does this
The
affect
system
analysis
always
and
fail
medical
you in the
record?
end, man.
So a person with a history of child maltreatment now committing filicide. So again, just thinking about how people are going to weigh that type of evidence. Again,
Alexander, listen, I appreciate a lot of fire.
is
Yeah, that's all we got for you, chat. That's all we got on this one right here. We're gonna go ahead and jump to the next one. That's all we got, YouTube. Tap in. It's your boy Turtle. You heard me? Crime time, crime time, crime time.